Bonjour French 101 students, bienvenue au vidéo 3 du chapitre 1. So welcome to video 3 of chapter 1. So you'll see the subject of our video lesson today. There's 4 different topics mentioned up here. Les pronoms sujets, le verbe être, la négation, et quelques adjectifs. It seems like a lot of stuff, but it's actually not as much as it seems. Let's kind of explain what each one of these things is, and then we'll break it down a little bit further as we go along. So, les pronoms sujets, these are subject pronouns, and in English, subject pronouns are just words like I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. And we use these all the time to take the place of the names of people. If we don't want to repeat their names, we use a pronoun or a subject pronoun instead. They're called subject pronouns because they come at the beginning of the sentence. The first thing that pops up in a sentence is the subject of that sentence. It determines what everything else that comes after it is going to be. So that's why they're called subject pronouns. So if I say, I study French, I am the subject of that sentence because I'm the one doing something. Okay, so we'll get into the French version of those subject pronouns in just a few minutes. The second topic is going to be le verbe être. So try to pronounce that one after me. Être. You're going to hear that kind of strong sounding R in the second syllable. And after listening to all of the activité orale assignments that you just recently submitted, R is definitely a challenging sound. And for everybody, it's because we don't have that sound in English, and it's not that easy to pronounce at first. So the verb être is just the verb to be in English. It's really like the most common verb we have in English. We use it everywhere. Like I am, you are, he, she, it is, etc. Okay, the other topic we'll look at is la négation, and that's making a verb like être negative. So I can say I am, or I can say I am not. And that's all we're talking about with negation or négation. And finally, quelques adjectifs. Once we cover the subject pronouns, the verb être, and how to say you're not something, then we'll talk about some words to describe yourself or others. So all this comes together to help us form some sentences in French. Okay, so let's start with les pronoms sujets en français. All right, all of these words you see highlighted here in blue are the pronoms sujets, and they're simply the equivalents of all those subject pronouns I just told you about in English. So, je is I, tu is you. You'll also notice that there are 2 forms of you in French, right? There is tu and there is vous. Notice that the vowels sound a little bit different. Okay, tu is spelled with just 1 U, and that's that French U I taught you about in chapitre préliminaire. It's that sound where you kind of say E first and then make your lips really tight until you get the U sound. Oh, E, or you could do T, tu. So, tu es. All right, and by contrast, vous is not such a tight sound. It's still a rounded sound, oo, but I think it's not quite as sharp and tight as the U sound is. And what's the difference between these 2 forms of you? Tu is the informal form that you would use to talk to people on your same level, friends, family members, talking to a child maybe. Vous is the form you would use in more formal, polite situations. Maybe you're talking to your boss or a teacher or somebody who is in a position of authority. Vous is also used to refer to a group of people, formal or informal. So you'll use both of these forms of you in different situations. Okay, you also notice the subject pronouns il for he, elle for she, nous for we, and then il, elle in the plural sound exactly the same as il, elle in the singular. il, elle in the plural for they, masculine or feminine, they. Oh, il is masculine, elle is feminine. The S's are not pronounced, but you do need to use the S on the end when you're spelling these pronouns because it matters when you start to use them with verbs. Okay, so that gives you an overview of all of the subject pronouns. Now, the next thing we'll move on to is le verbe être. So the verb to be. What is a verb? Just as a reminder, it's just an action word. It's a word that says what somebody or something is doing. And in the case of the verb être, or the verb to be, it's like a state of being. There are other verbs where you can actually imagine or see the action happening, like walk. I'm walking. You can actually see me doing that action. Being is just something that I do without even thinking about it or controlling it. I'm just being. I'm just here. And it's really the same meaning in French. So the way we would conjugate that verb to be in English, you can see in the chart here, I am, you are, he, she, it is, we are, they are. And so we have a few different forms of the verb to be. And in French, it's pretty similar. So I am would be je suis. You are informal is tu es. And keep in mind those silent letters. Those are important to pay attention to. He or she or he or it is would be il est. She or it is elle est. We are is nous sommes. Okay, so notice that we have silent letters here too. Like 3 of the letters on the end are silent. Nous sommes. Vous êtes. Notice that the S on the end of vous becomes pronounced when you connect it to a word that begins with a vowel. So et begins with a vowel sound. So vous becomes vous êtes. That's an important pronunciation distinction to make. Okay, ils sont and elles sont. So the silent letters stay at the end of il and elle, and the form that goes with these plural forms, plural subject pronouns, is sont. Okay, so this is a verb conjugation you definitely need to memorize. It's one of the foundational ones you will need to study anything else in French as we go forward. It will be very important for learning the past tense, where you talk about things that happened in the past, yesterday or last week, as opposed to now. So definitely commit this one to memory. It's an important one that we'll need going forward. Okay. Moving on. All right, so a few of these ideas I've mentioned already. The first point here talks about the difference between tu and vous. You can review that for yourself here as I keep on talking. Okay, to use they, it is important to mention here that we use il for a group of males or a mixed group, and elle for a group of all females. So il would be for, if you're talking to a group of 5 guys, you would use il. Ils sont. If you're talking to a group of 5 girls or women, you would say elles sont. If you're talking to a mixed group, let's say it's 3 girls and 2 guys, it's still going to be ils sont. It may not be completely fair that we use the masculine form even for a mixed group, but that's the way the language works. Okay, je, notice before it comes, or je, or as it says here, any other one-syllable words ending in ne, le, replace the e with an apostrophe before another word beginning with a vowel. So just to give you an example of that, if I wanted to use the pronoun je, and the verb étudier, you may or may not know this verb yet, but it's just an example. Étudier means to study. If I want to conjugate this and say I study, I'll just show you how it works for now, even if you don't know this one yet. Because étudier begins with a vowel sound, I'm going to drop the e in je and connect them to form a contraction. J'étudie. You haven't learned the conjugation for étudier yet, so don't worry about that one right now, but just to show you an example of what happens to je before it gets connected to a verb that begins with a vowel sound. Okay, now we can go to our third topic, which is la négation, so negation, or saying not in French. Okay, so in English, it's pretty easy to say not in a sentence, right? I can just simply say, I am not, let's say happy. I am happy, but it's just the first thing that came into my mind. So we simply take the word not. Sorry about all those notifications. So not comes right after the verb to be. So I am happy, I am not happy. In French, it's a little bit different though. You actually use two words to express the meaning of not. So je suis up here, je suis means I am. To say I am not, I have to take the words ne and pas and put them around the verb être. So je ne suis pas. Okay, you need both of them to communicate that meaning of not. And often when people speak quickly, instead of saying je ne suis pas, they will say je ne suis pas. So you may notice that in some of the Mind Tap recordings. They may kind of blend those two words together. Je ne suis pas. I am not. Okay. Tu n'es pas means you are not. Tu es is you are. If I add ne and pas and surround it, surround that verb est, the conjugated form of être that goes with tu, I am saying you are not. Now notice that ne looks a little bit different here. It is not ne anymore, and that's because it's coming before a form of the verb that starts with a vowel. So I need to change that to n apostrophe, n apostrophe in French. So just recognize that that is ne pas, but the e is dropped because of the spelling of the word. The same thing happens with il or elle n'est pas. Okay, we have to drop the e here because est begins with a vowel. Okay, that's not the case with nous ne sommes pas because some begins with a consonant rather than a vowel sound. So it stays ne. Nous ne sommes pas, or nous ne sommes pas, if I'm saying it quickly. Okay, vous n'êtes pas. Okay, again, I'm using this contraction because et begins with a vowel sound. So it becomes vous n'êtes pas. And finally, ils ne sont pas or elles ne sont pas. And if I'm saying it quickly, it's probably going to sound more like elles ne sont pas, ils ne sont pas. Okay, so just remember whenever you're using ne and pas to negate a verb, it goes before and after that verb. Okay, and finally, we're going to look at quelques adjectifs. And all that means is some adjectives. So remember with adjectives, I'm sure you've heard about these all throughout your K-12 school years. These are describing words. So we have pronouns that are nouns, we have être, which is a verb, and now we have adjectives, which are going to describe the subject pronouns. Okay, so if you take a look at this chart here, you see that adjectives come in different forms in French. So a word like petit means small. If I am referring to a group of guys or a mixed group of girls and guys, that's going to be the masculine plural form. So I need to add an S to the end, and it is pronounced petit. It doesn't change. We just have to add the S to show that it's describing this group of people, either all male or mixed male and female. Feminine singular, if I'm just describing one woman or girl, then I would say petites. So the S on the end is pronounced now. If I'm referring to a group of all women, then I would say petites, but I'm adding a silent S to the end. So it's important for spelling, not necessarily for pronunciation. Okay, with the word extraverti, you can probably remember, hopefully from the last video, what this means, or guess just by looking at it. This is extroverted. So extraverti, this would be the form for describing one male. Extraverti avec S, with S, is for a group of males or a mixed group of males and females. Extraverti, with the E on the end, is for one woman or girl, and extraverti, with the E and the S on the end, is for a group of women or girls. Notice in this case they all sound exactly the same, right? So extraverti, 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 it's the same across the board. This really matters for spelling more than it does for pronunciation. The same is the case with jeune, from the adjective for young. So the forms are all the same in pronunciation, nothing changes, but the spelling does change according to who you're describing. Okay, the same is the case with marié. Again, you're just adding S's or an ES if you're talking about women and girls. And finally, français, the pronunciations do change a little bit here. Français is the same, whether it's masculine, singular, or plural, and that's because the word ends in S already. Française is the form you would use to describe a woman or a girl, and française, you would add an S to the end, but the pronunciation is the same as the singular. Okay, so it's probably a lot to keep in mind, but I'm going to give you some chances to practice this. Okay, let's take a look at a few sentences that I have created here. All right, so je suis. If I'm describing myself and I want to fill in the blank here, I would say je suis extraverti. But I have to add an E to the end because I'm describing myself. Okay, as a female, I'm going to add the E. If you are male, then you would take the E off and leave it that way. So I'm going to give you a chance to jump in here and add your own adjective. You can choose any from this list. If you have another one in mind that you've learned from another French class in the past, feel free to try it out. For this interaction, you can either type or you can say your response. Okay, for the second sentence, je ne suis pas, here you're going to say what you're not. Okay, so in my case, I might say, I meant to do the second one. So here I'm going to say what I'm not, and I'm not French. I was not born in France. So I'm going to say, je ne suis pas française. And I need to pronounce the S at the end because that's how you say it when it's in the feminine form. Okay, but if you are male, then you might say, je ne suis pas français. Okay, so I'm going to erase that one now. And it's your turn to either type or say which one of these adjectives doesn't apply to you. You could say, je ne suis pas mariée, je ne suis pas française, je ne suis pas petit, etc. Okay, let me just turn that off really quickly. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so go ahead and take a chance to record your own version of that sentence. Je ne suis pas, you fill in the blank. Okay, so then the third sentence you have here is ils sont. So you're going to describe a masculine plural group or a mixed plural group. And all of those forms would be this column right here, the masculine plural. So if I'm referring to that group, I might say ils sont petits, they're small, but I need to have the S on the end. Or ils sont français. Okay, so all the people in that group are French. Okay, so I'll give you a chance to fill it in with your own. Okay, for elles sont, here I have to use the feminine plural category because I'm talking about a group of women or girls. So I could say elles sont petites, elles sont jeunes, elles sont françaises, elles sont extraverties, elles sont mariées. So you can choose the one that you would like to fill in there. And finally, we have il n'est pas. Oh, he is not. So for this one, I'm going to need to use the masculine singular category. So, il n'est pas petit, il n'est pas extraverti, il n'est pas marié. So you can choose the adjective that you think fits in that blank. Okay, and we have just one more set of adjectives to take a look at here. Some that have some more significant spelling changes. So if we have an adjective like gros, which would basically mean like large in some sense. So gros for masculine singular, gros for masculine plural, and it doesn't change from singular to plural because it has an S on the end. So that kind of takes care of the plural part. Okay, feminine singular here would be grosse, and feminine plural grosse with the S on the end is pronounced in the same way. So I would say something like, just to insert a text box here. So I could say, elle est grosse, or elles sont grosses. So all I'm doing is just adding an S to the end of that. Oh, I meant to put an S over here too. That's important. Okay, so elle est grosse, she is, or elles sont grosses, they are. But the spelling of grosse doesn't, the spelling changes, but the pronunciation does not change. The same thing with the gentil. Okay, so I can say, il est gentil, ils sont gentils. So that would be a good example to put here. Il est gentil. Ils sont gentils. Et elle est gentille. It wants to correct my spelling. Elles sont gentilles. We need both L's there. Okay, so il est gentil, he is nice. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so il est gentil, ils sont gentils. So he is nice, they are nice. Notice I add an S to the end when I'm talking about a plural group of male or a mixed male and female. Elle est gentille, she is nice, just one woman or girl. Elles sont gentilles, now I'm adding S to elle and the extra S to gentil in the feminine form because I'm talking about a plural group, feminine group. Okay, so you can see that adjectives have a lot of different forms in French depending on whether they're singular, plural, masculine, feminine, or a mixture of those things. Okay, so I hope this helps you kind of understand these 4 interrelated topics. It seems like a lot of different topics to learn, but once you put it all together, what you're basically getting is some short sentences. So in all these examples right here, we have a subject pronoun like il, we have the verb être, we have an adjective gentil, and we can even add negation by putting n'est pas. So, il n'est pas gentil. We can take all 4 of those topics and create a short sentence. Okay, so that's how this works. I hope that this video lesson helps to make it a little bit clearer and give you some more chances to practice this yourself. And I look forward to seeing you again in video 4.